Thanks again for joining us at the 2024 Sports Analytics Conference Competitive Advantage Talks presented by Kager, also known as Craft Analytics Group. My name is Sebastian Gonzalez, and I'm a first-year MBA student at MIT Sloan. It is my pleasure to introduce the presentation, The Hunt is On, How the Timberwolves are Optimizing Business Growth While Leveraging On-Court Success, presented by Kager. Please join me in welcoming our speaker, Shay Martineau, Director of Analytics at the Minnesota Timberwolves, and links to the stage.
Thank you, Sebastian, and thank you, everyone, for choosing to spend a little bit of time with me this morning. I know there's a ton of great options out there. Today I'm just going to speak a little bit about how we've really anchored kind of everything we're doing from a business perspective in data. There's not going to be nearly enough time to touch it all, but with the new ownership incoming, there's a lot of drive to be very innovative with how we're approaching not only what we're doing on the court, but what we're doing behind the scenes. And I think before I can really dive into the how, which I know is why a lot of you guys are here, we've got to talk a little bit about what it is that we're trying to achieve as an organization from a business perspective. Our actual business plan is far more robust than 3 images on a slide, but the bit that I'm going to touch on today kind of all rolls up into what you're looking at here. So, no feedback. We're really trying to grow our fan base, and more specifically, we're trying to grow our local fan base. Minneapolis has a metro population of around 4 million, so sizable. We've got all 4 major men's sports teams. We've got a WNBA team, an MLS team, and a variety of other thoughtful entertainment options. So really what we want to do at the Wolves particularly is lean into how can we make sure that those people that are kind of in our own backyard are choosing to engage with our product, not only once, but recurrently. And the way that we think that we can do that is by really personalizing the fan experience, so leveraging fan data to create an experience that is relevant to them when and where they are interacting with us, fits their socioeconomic status, fits their life logistically. And ultimately, this third one here is certainly a goal, but it's arguably the outcome of doing these first 2 successfully, right? We want to make sure that there aren't only bodies in our arena, but they're filled with people who are engaged, energetic, creating an atmosphere that is exciting and fun for people who are attending our games, and ultimately creating a competitive advantage for our team that is on the court. So there's a ton of cross-functional effort that goes into achieving these 3 goals, but what our team's responsibility is to really harness data to not only achieve the goals that I just outlined, but accelerate our progress towards said goals. Don't have time to touch on everything that we do, but the 3 principles that I'm going to focus on today is how we are trying to kind of curate cross-channel data to create a centralized view of our fan, how we're taking that data in partnership with the Craft Analytics Group and creating kind of actionable segments that allow us to group people with like behaviors in a way that we can act upon quickly from a promotional and offer and an engagement perspective. In a personalized way, right? Ultimately, we don't want to send communications to people that aren't relevant to them, and it's important that we're monitoring what that looks like. So we'll touch a little bit on how we're monitoring that in real time and making sure that we are promoting a continuous improvement environment. Though you all should be, I imagine you are not all diehard Minnesota sports fans, so I want to take a minute to just kind of explain the state of our team. We are and have been at the top of the Western Conference since November 8th is when we became a top 3 team, and we really haven't looked back. We've been in first or tied for first for a majority of that time. We've got a top-ranked NBA, or a top-ranked defensive team in the NBA. We are on pace to break franchise records kind of across the board. We've also sold out every home game, so as you can imagine, the benefit to the business is there as well. And I don't put this slide up here just to publicly state this as a diehard Minnesota sports fan my entire life. I do it so we can kind of level set in the fact that this is not what we've been able to say historically, and that changes the landscape of our business. With that being said, for anybody that works on the team side, you can probably attest to the fact that winning makes everything better. It makes it more fun, it makes it more exciting. It doesn't necessarily make it easier though, right? As our team continues to perform internally and externally, expectations rise. So we are still constantly chasing aspirational goals that take a ton of very intentional effort to achieve, regardless of where our goals were at the start of the season. Sorry, one last thing, and it's arguably the thing that I would like you guys to take away the most. What I'm about to talk to throughout the remainder of this presentation, yes, is a data strategy that's allowing us to capitalize on the success of our team, right? Lean into branding of our own players rather than matchups, capitalize on long win streaks, things of that nature. But a strong data strategy doesn't just allow you to capitalize on the success of your team, it allows you to kind of lay down a stable foundation through turbulent times. So much of what I'm going to touch on today would have been the same if the standings were flipped on their heads tomorrow, right? We're going to take the same macro approach in how we're leveraging customer data to drive ticket sales and engagement across multiple channels. Okay, so let's just take a look. This is kind of an illustrative representation of kind of what I would consider our fan dataverse. So as we try to pull data in, which is the foundation of everything we do, we have to be very intentional with what each data point is going to be, which I'll get into the details of it a little bit later. But it all starts with kind of demographic data. Who are our fans, regardless of their level of fandom, right? Because we want to know who they are as a person, their location, their income, their socioeconomic status, their family life, different things like that, because they are more than just who they are on our ticketing platform. They have lives outside of what they're doing with the Wolves and the Lynx. Next is what is probably the most robust data set across any team or organization, right? That's our ticketing and our attendance behavior. So we look very deep into when and where people are buying, how often they're utilizing versus transferring versus reselling tickets. That tells us a lot about who they are as a fan and just a consumer of our product as a whole. And then next, there's non-ticketing products, right? Yes, at the end of the day, our objective is to pull everyone into the arena and to buy as many tickets as possible. It's a primary revenue generator. But there are people who just cannot or are not willing to attend a game, but they still want to interact with us in a meaningful and monetized way. So we take a very close look at how they're interacting with social channels, how they are consuming retail products, and different things of that nature. Lastly, and something that I'm really excited to talk about a little bit, is this league engagement data that we're now pulling in. This is new this year. We were one of the very first teams to partner with the league in their new LDI, League Data Initiative, to pull data into our ecosystem that not only shows how our fans are interacting with us, but how are they interacting with basketball as a whole? How are they interacting at a league level? So just this year, we've pulled in, you'll see a little more of the detail in the next slide, but about 65 different attributes from the league's system that not only allows us to append that data to our currently existing fans to understand how they're engaging beyond us in this broader sense, but there are also a ton of net new fans that are local that haven't yet interacted with our product, but are fans of basketball, they are fans of 2K, they are interacting with our merch at an NBA level, and a variety of different things, right? So it's a very target-rich environment for us that we're excited to dig deeper into, and has allowed us to grow that fan base just like kind of overnight. So a little bit more granular view as to what data we're pulling in to try to centralize this view of our fan. Across the left-hand side is probably going to be kind of, if you work for a team, what you've already seen, if you're adjacent to sports, what you would expect to see, right? So a lot of our ticketing data, what are they buying, where are they buying it, when are they buying it, are they using it, are they giving it to somebody else to use, kind of lives at central to everything that we do. Across the non-ticketing products, right? What are our email open rates? Are they opening emails with certain player branding versus other non-player branding, different things of that nature. Mobile app traffic, web app traffic, media engagement across both owned and paid channels. And then kind of central to all that is who is interacting with this. Are they local fans? Are they global fans? Do they have a large family? Are they single? Just anything that we can do to understand better who they are, we are pulling it in. And then there's a variety of other things that are very close to our organization, food and beverage, market research, public opinion data, retail data, our basketball academy program, so on and so forth. But in the top right corner is the LDI data, just a couple of items that we are starting to pull in. So how cool is it to see if somebody has not interacted with our product, but they're local in Minneapolis and they're playing NBA 2K, and the Minnesota Timberwolves are their favorite team in the NBA app. They haven't interacted with us, but I think it's safe to say that they have a high propensity to interact with us just based on that engagement. And that's something that we hadn't been able to see to date. So we're really excited to dive deeper into this. We've officially layered this into the segmentation work that we're doing with Kager to expand kind of how accurately we are describing a fan. We've added segments to capture this exactly. All-star voting is another really interesting thing to see as our team performance accelerates. So, as I mentioned, the foundation is pulling all of that in. It's a very time-consuming effort. Data can be messy. We spend an incredible amount of time in partnership with Kager to make sure that the data that we're pulling in to now create these segments is authentic, it's accurate, it's clean, it's efficient. And we just primarily run a ton of regressions, k-means clustering, really anything that can allow us to understand across really hundreds of variables, but we've kind of honed in on about 50 different attributes that allow us to identify like behavior across individuals so that we can group them together and act upon them more efficiently. I wish that we could understand and personalize every single thing to every individual. Maybe one day AI will help us do that. But right now, efficiency really is rooted in being able to put these people in like groups to operationalize it. We actually have more like 20 different segments, but we put this slide together to give you kind of an idea of the breadth of the segments that we use. So across the top here, you'll see high rollers, right? These are the people who are sitting courtside. They're attending games at a high clip. They are very heavily monetized, obviously very important to our ecosystem. But on the opposite end of that spectrum, you've got tap heroes who are non-monetized. They haven't spent $1 with us, but they are engaging with us. And I think there's something to be said for the importance of the potential fan from a monetization perspective down the line. And this is actually a fan base that we've leaned into very heavily when it comes to putting flash offers in front of them, maybe non-ticketing offers to just kind of accelerate that engagement to a point where they almost have no choice but to attend a game because they are so invested in our product. And then there's everything in between. We've got people who are slightly monetized, highly engaged, slightly monetized, and we really curate experiences for each of these people based on what we know about their monetized and non-monetized behaviors. Segmentation is great for acting upon it, but you've got to be able to understand like what's coming out of that segmentation, how you're acting upon the segments, what's working, what's not working. Are you changing who the fan is by interacting with them in a certain way? And what this Sankey chart hopefully represents is that we are, right? So this is representing, we run Kager segments historically annually. We've actually done it multiple times this year given just the rate of sales. We want to make sure we have the most real-time view of what our fans are, where they are. So we've got multiple sections to this Sankey chart. But the single section that you're looking at, right, is looking at one Kager segment to the next. So essentially a year-over-year view of which segment fans fall into. And we monitor this very closely to essentially look for ascension and descension across these, right? Because we want to know if, as we're meeting our engaged but non-monetary fans with economic entries into the arena, flash sales, different things like that, is that working to the ability of actually raising them into a more monetized segment, or are they only interacting with it slightly? Same with some of our high-valued products, our high rollers. Is our premium product offering solid enough that the people who are willing and able to spend the amount of money that they are with us continuing to do so, right? So we want to see a lot of retention across some of these higher monetized segments. So really, we're largely using it as this barometer to make sure that our product offering really matches what the composition of our fan demographic is. And lastly, it is looking at just that, right? I've heard a lot of talks here this weekend about just, is more premium the answer, is less premium the answer? If you over-index in high rollers who are willing and able to spend that, maybe you can over-index in the premium offering, or vice versa. Maybe you need a lower barrier of entry to engage your fan at a ticketing level. So this has a lot more information beyond just what it gives us about a singular fan as we review it at a more macroeconomic level. Another exercise that we do to kind of monitor this fan behavior is at a little more granular of a level This matrix is for illustrative purpose here. It's allowing us to kind of consistently track where the cross behaviors are across monetary and non-monetary channels, right? So you'll see in the very top right corner there, right? Marketing has a very dark blue circle in alignment with ticketing. So we know that there's a high density of people who are interacting with our marketing campaigns that are converting into ticket sales. Kind of to be expected, but what we can do with this then is we can pull that population out of that intersection, look at key behaviors across that population, and create lookalike campaigns to make sure that our marketing is going to individuals who have the highest propensity to convert via a ticket offer or via a social channel, whatever that may look like. Okay, so what does it look like in action? I wish I could say that every Monday morning we sit down as a group and we think very thoughtfully about emails and phone calls and texting channels, so on and so forth. PowerPoints tend to make things look a lot more linear and clean than they are. But at the end of the day, that's what we're doing, right? We're working very closely with our communication channel teams to make sure that we are identifying the segments for them to push said notifications and communications to that have the highest likelihood to interact with those channels. Now, sometimes it happens that our team is doing something completely unrelated, identifies a key trend across a population, then we're taking it back to marketing and saying, hey, we got to think of a way to get something in front of these people. They have an incredibly high likelihood to buy this product, and then we kind of start from the middle there. At the end of the day, what's most important is that throughout this entire personalization process, what we're doing is we're putting a promotion into the market at a very intentional group of people, and we're monitoring that engagement throughout the entire process. We might pull the plug on something if it's not resonating. We might double down in a segment if it's overperforming. We are continuously making changes to the communication that we're sending out to our fans each and every day to make sure it stays as personalized as possible. Continuous improvement, right? It's a through line to everything that we do here. It's probably been mentioned in every presentation you've listened to date. So how about some examples? Black Friday is one of our best performing offers to date. Rather than saying, all right, on Black Friday, we're going to put this thing live and we're going to let it roll as long as we can and pull as much as we can in, we've actually taken a more dynamic and strategic approach to it. We put a pre-Black Friday offer into the market that really was hitting a wide breadth of segments so we could create a population of purchaser data that is giving us insight into who has the highest likelihood to buy kind of a deep discounted offer as such. Throughout the process, we're sending out reminders to stimulate demand to make sure that that sample size is meaningful. And then as we review that, going into the official Black Friday offer, we've now got a clear image of who is most likely to engage with this offer. Now, we're not only going to them, but we are going to over-index in them, right? So we're doubling down in these segments on social lookalikes, paid and owned media, partnering with our ad agencies to make sure that it is getting in front of the right people in the right place at the right time. And then we go live with it. And that really amplifies the success of this product, doesn't take away from, right? Because we still have it available to any and every consumer via some of our more generic channels. We're just customizing how we're getting in front of the people who have shown us that they have the most interest in an offer as such. And it doesn't stop there, right? We let that run. We send similar reminders to make sure that our demand is always as intensified as it can be. We actually went live with a post-Black Friday offer because we saw so much success across that group of people that we had identified. So we resent another offer that replicates what we were offering in Black Friday similarly, maybe not quite as deeply discounted, to the buyers of step 1 and step 2, because ultimately our goal is to get people to engage multiple times, not just a singular time. So we're trying to create repeat buyers out of people who purchased from one of our most deeply discounted offers to get them nurtured through a single game channel and maybe one day have them in a position to say, a flex plan is what's right for me. And being conscious of that even amongst your lower level buyers is incredibly important, and we've reaped the benefit of it over the last couple of years. Another example is our Enter to Win that we did around the in-season tournament in partnership with the Minnesota Vikings. As you can see on the right-hand side, right, we We pushed in paid social spaces to certain segments. We used targeted emails to other segments. There's also a population of people that have opted into SMS, texting as their preferred channel of communication. We have leveraged that to make sure that we're meeting the people where they want to be. There are people out there who are going to get an email and they're just going to instantly throw it to junk, or they're going to get a phone call, they don't know who it's from, they're not going to answer it. But if they get a text, they'll take their time. This enter to win, I don't have exact numbers, but let's just say blew every other enter to win out of the water that we've ever done from an interest perspective. And that, as it relates to kind of us with data interests, is that's consumer data coming into our ecosystem, whether it be new individuals or expanding our view of fans that we already have with a more limited set of data. Tracking, I mentioned at the start, is very important. We do a lot of real-time tracking. We also do a lot of macro tracking just across like kind of our fan ecosystem as a whole. So the first visual representation that you're seeing there is looking at fan engagement and fan retention over time. This screenshot is actually out of Stellar Algo, which is a CDP platform that came along with the LDI, the League Data Initiative that I mentioned early on. So not only are we kind of reaping the benefit of the data that we're getting from that data initiative, we've also received additional tools to both operationalize that data, right, push directly out of this platform, and monitor and track the success across our segments. Similarly, more of an internal dashboard, right, where we're constantly looking at seat type and the sell-through of seat type by certain individuals, the sales velocity of sales relative to certain communications or offers in the market, right? It's not just did we fill the arena, it's how efficiently did we fill the arena. We like many, have a dynamic pricing model. We want to make sure that we are pricing according to the demand of our consumer, so we keep a very close eye on each and every game from a specific seat type level. And then on the far right, kind of small, but social media, right? Work closely with our marketing teams to just make sure that we have a pulse on what's going on in the social space. It's everything to the younger generation, so we want to interact with them there as much as we possibly can. So what has this done for us, right? There's obviously what I mentioned at the start, right, of team performance being a large driver in what we're seeing from a success perspective. But some of these metrics you see on the screen here were put in motion years ago, before Ant had officially ascended, before we were the first in the West, right? We have seen 122% increase in TV ratings over the past 2 years. We've seen likewise success in the digital radio space. All-star voting is up 268% year over year. We were actually one of the top 5 teams from a votes per team perspective. Retail up 150%, sorry, in revenue year over year. In arena, that's where I'm getting the mix up, sorry guys, is up 55% year over year. Sellout streak is beyond 24 games now. Like I said, we've sold out every game, including the game last night, even though the outcome wasn't what we wanted. Attendance is up 12% over the past 2 years. Social engagement's up over 50%. Our net promoter score is up 30%, right? It goes on and on. We've only seen positive impact from this intentionality that we've put into what we're doing, as well as doubling down on the team success and really making sure our product is at the forefront of what we are putting in front of our customers. So takeaways, right? Everything is rooted in the curation of data. When you're talking about consumer data, you have to do it in an ethical way, right? It's a very sensitive topic, but I think the way that I always approach this conversation if I'm having with someone outside of the space, right, is we're doing this for mutual benefit, right? Yes, we are receiving monetary benefit of being very customized in our offers and driving sales, but we're also benefiting the consumer, making sure that we're putting things that are relevant in front of them. We're not wasting their time, right? So we're consuming that data in an ethical way, and we're using it in a very ethical way. Socioeconomic behaviors are always changing. People always change. This goes back to the real-time monitoring. You can't segment people one time. You've got to continuously look at their behaviors and see how they are changing, both at a micro and a macro level, and be dynamic in how you approach that. And then lastly, it's kind of closed circle on the thing that I said in the beginning, is that doing this level of personalization, being this intentional with your data, rooting everything that you do from a business perspective, specifically consumer interaction, yes, it's going to give you a ton of benefit in the success of your organization, but it's also just going to give you a level of stability that you and leaders will find some level of comfort in. So I'll close with just thank yous. Laura Meyer, Carter Burkhart, who are here, Sheena and Hamza, who are back in Minnesota holding the fort down. I'm up here talking to you guys. They are putting all the effort in to get things done behind the scenes. So really appreciate them. And then Jess and the entire Kager team, just for a very thoughtful, fruitful, and intentional partnership over the years. It's been an amazing journey, and we're really excited to see where everything takes us. So use the rest of the time for any questions, if there are any.
We have time for one question, if anyone has any.
Hey, Jake, Golden State Warriors. I guess my question is, do you have a sense of like what your most important segment is that as you've been going through this process? Is it spend patterns, demographics, some combination? What do you think was like the most valuable on your kind of journey here?
I mean, it's hard to say that the most important isn't the most monetized, right? Those people that are giving us our foundation of revenue year over year to build upon are going to be the most important, for sure in the immediate term and obviously in the long term as well. There's no way around that. However, what I will say is some of those non-monetized but engaged personas, I think, are what give us the most potential forward-looking, right? We've got this large population of people who are ready to spend with us but maybe haven't yet. So it's how do we get in front of them to grow that group of monetized people that we fall back onto year over year. So long story short, I would say that the people who are monetized today are going to be the most important. Our business might not work without them. But where we're spending a lot of our time and energy is also within those people who are engaged but not yet monetized, because we see the most potential within them. They're ready to go, right? And there's no better time than now with how our team is performing to capitalize on them. Thank you.